Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great issue for you guys. 10 books that we'll be reviewing today, as per usual. We'll talk about our polls that we got for this week, the polls that we got for next week. But before we dive into all that, just saw the new Superman trailer literally before I hit record on this. And man, it looks incredible. I thought it looked just as good from the teaser before. Things to note this time. Now it seems like there's just a lot more cameos that are going to be in this movie than maybe initially anticipated. It already seems like a lot in the first place. But the concern that I see for folks is like, how are we going to give enough room for all these characters to breathe, right? That's, I think, the biggest concern. But other than that, it does look like we kind of have the James Gunn spin on everything, right? So it does feel maybe a little bit more Guardians with like kind of a funnier, quippier, more campy sort of vibe rather than this dark, serious tone like, you know, the DC universe has been for the past couple years. And so this nice reboot is going to certainly change the tone. So we'll see if that is actually the case for the movie, but I really don't see why it wouldn't be. But so far, I'm still very interested and excited for it and looking forward to it. To be honest, though, with the two kiddos, I doubt I'll be able to get away and be able to see it in theaters. So this will be one that I watch when it, I assume, eventually comes to Max, would be my guess. Just like Thunderbolts, haven't seen that yet. That'll be when it comes to Disney Plus and, you know, kind of so on and so forth. But just want to give those thoughts there before we went ahead and jumped into our episode for today. So you see the books if you're watching on the video screen, appreciate that. You see we have Absolute Batman here. Most of the books are going to be coming from this week, but before we go into that, let's go into our polls real quick. So on the polls for this week, it was a bunch. We had 19 books. Jeez, I'm even surprising myself, and like I know what I picked up this week, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of a lot. But that's all right. Again, for the previews of the last two batches, and those are releases I think for June and July, I only got like one shots or things that I was like, all right, I already committed to getting that a while back and didn't really add anything else. That's whether it be a mini series or like an ongoing series as well. So I'll kind of continue that pace throughout the summer, and then maybe we'll reevaluate once these weekly books start to get below 15 is probably where I think I'd start to feel comfortable again. But from the top here, and I'll talk about the books that I've read and we'll be reviewing. Some of them are going to be backlogs, and then some of them I'll get to the Omega Run. And for those that don't know, that's basically the additional podcast. It's not a guarantee, but I try to get to an additional one once a week where I'll go through a bunch of my backlogs and then anything that's spillover from the previous week. So here, Absolute Batman, obviously you saw it on the page to start, so I read it, and we'll review that for today. Batman and Robin 21, that is going to be a backlog for me. Doctor Strange, Asgard, I read it, we'll review it, you know, as if you're looking on the screen as well. If you see the little indicator right there, you already know that I read it, but obviously the audio does not know that, so I'm just trying to call it out for them. Exquisite Corpses, this got a really good rating in review for the comic of the week. So excited to get to that. I'm just feeling the weight of it and like the thickness of it. It looks like it's a double issue. So that should be a good one. Excited to dive into that, but saving that for the Omega. Green Lantern Corp number 4. Reddit will review it. The Hive number 4. Reddit will review it. Huck Big Bad World number 1. Excited for that. The cover there really intrigued me. So I was like, okay, let's pick it up, see what that's all about. Immortal Thor 23, we'll save that for the Omega. Miles Morales Spider-Man 33, that is a backlog. One World Under Doom number 4, we'll save that for the Omega. Phoenix number 11 is a backlog. Sister Imperator number 3. Interesting one. It wasn't in the box. It didn't, I guess, arrive to stores. So I guess it was delayed because there's a whole bunch of stuff about it on Reddit, but it wasn't updated here in League for whatever reason. And League is usually very, very good. I've maybe seen like one or two instances where this has ever happened before. In the shop, the manager there was like very confused. He was like, I don't understand why we wouldn't have gotten this book. So there's something going on with it that's out of the hands of the shop, or, you know, the distributors. Don't quite know, but we'll eventually get to that. Then we have Spectacular Spider-Man number 15. Now, when I got this, I didn't realize that this is actually the last book of this run here. So that is going to be a conclusion. Reddit will review it. Transformers number 20. Reddit will review it. Ultimate Black Panther 16. Reddit will review it. Ultimate X-Men number 15. Reddit will review it. And then 3 more here. We have Uncanny X-Men number 14 as a backlog. World Tree number 14. I'm going to save that for the Omega. And then X Factor number 10. That is a backlog as well. So those are the pulls for this week. Again, 19. That's huge amount. Again, I want to get it under 15 or so. 15 to 10, I think, would be kind of a sweet spot if I can. But, things are going to fluctuate. Things get delayed all the time. Sometimes weeks end up being heavier than you anticipated, so on and so forth. But I try to keep it at that amount because some of these are going to be backlogs. If I could read all 10, I think that's awesome for a particular show. But sometimes I don't get to the shop on a Wednesday. It all just depends. I was able to get there Thursday, so most of the books that I'm reading today are from this week, but not every single one of them is. So let's go ahead, flip over to the Comic Cam, and let's just go right into our reviews for this week. So again, 10 on the docket. We'll start off with the polls that we have from this week. So we have Absolute Batman number 8, Ultimate Black Panther number 16, Ultimate X-Men number 15, Transformers number 20, Green Lantern Corp number 4, The Hive number 4, Spectacular Spider-Man number 15, Doctor Strange of Asgard number 3, and then here is where we get into the backlogs. It's just 2 issues that I have here, Batman 153 and Phoenix number 5. So those are the books we'll go through in that order. I started putting time codes. I did this a couple videos ago, but I'll continue to do that as well just to make it easier on the video format. I haven't done it on the audio format, and the reason is I actually use Audacity for the audio format, and then for recording for YouTube, I just use OBS. So it's like slightly different on the tracking and when things break up, but it's basically within seconds. So if you're on the YouTube and you're like, oh, I'd like to know for the audio, just look at the YouTube, look, and you'll be able to see where they are there. But to copy and paste it between the two and it not to be correct, it takes that much extra effort and time. And so I'd rather just leave it for the YouTube. I imagine the audio you're just listening through anyways. At least that's how I listen to podcasts anyways. So let's pause from that. Go to the review. Absolute Batman, number 8. If I flip over to our shared screen, done with the polls. Let's go into Absolute Batman. You see I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. Good issue that we have here. We're deep into kind of the Freeze arc, if you will. It's not Mr. Freeze this time. It's actually his son, who is the character that we are is the villain for this one. And we left off last issue. Oh, and before I jump in, I should always remind the audience here, for these reviews, I spoil the heck out of everything. I basically go through the entire story where we're at thus far. Everything is spoiled of what I've read, and then I review it. I let you know whether or not I think it'd be a good place to jump in, if it's a good series, kind of so on and so forth. So that's how it'll be for all the books. If you don't want spoilers at all, this is not the show for you. Just letting you know. So yeah, for this book, it picks up right where we left off, where Batman, or Bruce in this point, is using an alias, but basically Freeze revealed himself to be the villain in this. He has his parents frozen in ice, and he was frozen in ice as well. He had like some sort of disease that they thought that the ice would be able to help. And basically he walks around as like this frozen entity. And we start off the issue here. He's dragging Bruce along, brings him into this lab area, puts Bruce into, basically like a cryo chamber, if you think of almost Star Wars-esque from the original trilogy there, shout out. But he's locked in there, he's unconscious, he wakes up, and Freeze just basically goes through the whole thing of what's about to happen to him, and his body's going to go through hypothermia, but it keeps you alive. But you basically are alive because you're screaming in pain, and it's the way that they describe it, and I have a feeling this is very true, you actually feel like a lot of heat. It's like burning even though you're freezing, which seems insane, but I think that is like the sensation that you actually feel if you were to ever get hypothermia. If someone's ever had that, God forbid, but comment below and just let us know, is that the sensation that you feel? But he gets put into this chamber. Freeze, goes through his whole spiel and then walks off. And throughout this book and a lot of the other issues previously, we have a different origin story for Bruce here, right? So that's all the Absolute Universe is a completely different universe, and everyone has different origin stories as to how they've gotten their powers or their abilities or how they came into, who they are now. And for Batman, he was a kid. He went to a zoo, and there was this public shooting, mass shooting event that happened. His father was a teacher and got killed trying to save the other students, including Bruce, during this shooting event. So it's like kind of a different scenario than, the typical killed in the alleyway after, leaving a show. And here we get a lot of flashbacks to what happened there and his friends like trying to help him through it, and basically his origin on how he came up with this Batman idea. And you get a little bit more of that throughout the book here. His friends are basically like, hey, you going on the suicide mission by yourself. Like, it seems like you just have a death wish, and your father sacrificing himself, it wasn't about him dying, it was about his life. That's what makes it so impactful. And so you need to push through and survive and live. And it has that story going along as the actual events are taking place of his body getting frozen. On his wrist, he still has like a batarang thing. So he feels the cold going from his feet up. And as that's happening, he's able to squeeze and break the strapping. And then he shoots the batarang, misses a couple times. And then one finally hits the control panel, which he's able then to break out, gets into the full Batman suit, and then charges Freeze, who's in another room doing some sort of experiment. So they start fighting back and forth. Batman's not fully recovered from the cold, so he's a little bit on the back foot, but he's able to get some sort of an advantage. And at that point, Freeze has a whole bunch of other bodies that are frozen and stuck in ice, so he releases them, and they're almost like mummified White Walker type deal from Game of Thrones. And so they start surrounding Bruce, and it seems like he's not going to be able to get out. He basically hulks up and bursts out, jumps through a window in order to get out, and then dives down, and he calls up all of his friends. And his friends are actually like the traditional villains, like the Riddler, for example, like Scarecrow. I don't know if one's Joker or not, but it's a whole bunch of them, but they're actually his friends, and they're not like the full-blown villains in this universe. And he's like, I need to regroup, and we need to like do this together to go after Freeze. So it ends there, and then there's one final segment where we have one of his closer friends who is like captured, and it's something at the end, it's like Bane is coming next. So there's something where they're taking his friend as and going to experiment him and probably inject him with, whatever the hormones and stuff that Bane is on. So yeah, it's interesting. It's pretty good. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. It seems like for the most part, Batman is in the 4.6s and above. So this one does slide back a little bit, especially for the action. You would expect more of a payoff here. But I find that a lot of the times there's not a lot that happens in the time span of these issues, but it's tried to be really impactful, as here is how all of this correlates back to Bruce's origin, basically, and as it like weaves in all these narrative threads, the art itself does a good job of like depicting what that is. And so let's actually flip into it and show off some of this art here, because it's excellent and it always has been. You can see here basically where he's in the cryo chamber, and then here's like a discussion that he's having with his friends about him going off on his own. Here's an awesome splash page here and breaking out, and you can see like Freeze looks like an absolute freak of nature in this one. So art is excellent, very, very good. And I've been enjoying this one. I'd say based on the ratings, this is probably people's most favorite Absolute book. But for me, it's actually probably number 3. And then there's a Batgirl issue that follows up afterwards. I'd actually say Wonder Woman is probably number 1. And then I'd say Superman's probably number 2. And then Batman's probably number 3 is where I'm at right now. Green Lantern's still developing, Flash is still developing, Martian Manhunter is still developing, although a lot of people put Martian Manhunter towards the top because that art is absolutely ridiculous there as well. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. And we started off with the Holy Trinity, so those are a lot more issues in. I think Martian, the other 3 that I mentioned, are only on issue 2, so we'll see where things start to pick up after that. But yeah, that is Absolute Batman number 8. I'd recommend picking up 7 is probably a better place to start than in number 8, because you really start to get into some of the action and miss maybe some of the backstory here. But if you can, start from the beginning. The first trade, it's got to be coming out soon, I'd imagine. So from there, just go into it that way would be my recommendation. So again, that's Absolute Batman number 8. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. Next up here, we have Black Panther number 16. Flip over here. And I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. I think this book, it's starting to have a bunch of filler issues in between, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, to be honest. I understand why Lee gave it a 3.7. I was thinking maybe 3.5. You can see that's like dead center of whether it would be up or down. But in the end, I decided to go with 4 because I think we got a lot more character development towards the end of the issue, which I do appreciate. So here we have a new arc that is taking place between Black Panther and Storm are going after this vibranium is now having like a consciousness within it. So it's almost like it has something deep within its core that has some sort of consciousness, evilness, and T'Challa can feel it as well as being the Black Panther and having this tied to the vibranium anyways. So we go back to it's a group of African people in a different nation, I think it's Nigeria, that are experimenting on an element that's very similar to vibranium, and they're the ones that make the observation in the first place. And so T'Challa and Storm, they go out to investigate, and they basically find out, like, yes, they have some vibranium, and they've identified this consciousness that's been taking place. And we meet a character named Adi, and his brother, I want to say, was like corrupted by this. So he goes and helps them, and he's part of the crew. So this issue, we're now trying to get to the lab at which it is being experimented on. And as they're on their way, there's this big explosion that takes place in the middle of the road. And when that happens, of course, T'Challa gets into the Black Panther and Storm, they go after, and this whole embodiment of whatever this consciousness reveals itself. So it's almost like this humanoid, rockish thing because it's from the vibranium, and it's like a demon-looking thing. You'll see it when I show the pages. And so Black Panther goes up to attack it. Adi goes up to attack it, and Adi's just like a regular old human. So at first it looks like they're fighting it pretty quickly, but you can tell that this humanoid is like barely trying at all. And then suddenly he gets like really ticked off and he starts attacking. Black Panther holds him off a little bit, and then Storm comes in like from behind, shoots off the lightning and everything. And when she does that, then this vibranium's like, okay, I'm done messing around, and completely nullifies her powers. Like just stops the lightning as though it's like made of rubber, and it stops conducting electricity. And at that point, he then kills Adi, like completely dead on the ground, and he's human, so I'm pretty sure he's a goner. And then Black Panther and Storm, they like kind of don't know what to do, and Storm then faints because her powers are like completely drained. And so T'Challa's like, all right, I gotta scoop up Storm and like head out of here. And so go a couple pages later, and basically we're in an abandoned shack, and T'Challa's like, Storm wakes up, and T'Challa's like, yeah, we just had to leave. Like, I don't know if we can stop this. And a lot of the doubt is coming from Black Panther because he can feel it within him. Like, he's having these visions almost, and at night he can, like, sense that this vibranium is, like, trying to corrupt him as well because of the ties to it. And then Storm is just like, we've been through some horrible crap before. We'll be able to fight through this. Same thing happened with Killmonger as well. And you just got to stay steadfast, follow the plan, and just keep fighting this thing, and we'll be able to get through this. So pretty good character development throughout. So I'm enjoying where we're at right now. I'd like to see where it goes next. I feel like the Moon Knight stuff was a little bit better than where we're at right now. This is basically us learning about the consciousness of the vibranium. And then here's where they're basically scouting out to where everything is. T'Challa's showing up, and then that explosion, and then all the fighting that takes place afterwards. And you can see like kind of this like rock type formation but it's like a humanoid. And so, yeah, it's, the art is pretty good here, I'd say overall. On the Ultimates, it's all been pretty good. And then awesome, kind of splash pages that you have here. So yeah, Black Panther, Ultimate Black Panther number 16. I'd say the time to jump in actually for this run would have been issue 14. 16, like we're kind of in the thick of it at this point, but if you're able to find at 14, that's probably a sweet spot to jump in, and would be my recommendation on that one. So for the Ultimates, Black Panther, so for the Ultimate Universe, right, you have you have 5. You have Spider-Man, you have Wolverine, you have the Ultimates, you have Black Panther, of course, and then you have X-Men, which is the next one that we'll be reviewing. And so I'd say Spider-Man is definitely number 1. And then Ultimates and Wolverine just depends on the day, but I'd say probably Wolverine, you have less books than that. Ultimates, I think, is like on number 10 or something like that. But Wolverine seems to be pretty good, and I'm enjoying the heck out of that. And then Ultimates, and then it really just drop off from there with Black Panther, and X-Men to me then takes a pretty steep drop off as far as quality of books, in my opinion. So if you're going to go with an Ultimate Universe, I'd say Spider-Man. And then if you want to do Ultimates or you want to do Wolverine, that would make sense too. I'd say Ultimates is actually probably the best one if you just want to know high level what's happening in this universe. That's probably the place to go. So Spider-Man, if you want a Spider-Man book. If you just want to know what's going on overall, Ultimates is where to go. So with that, now let's flip over to Ultimate X-Men here. And for Ultimate X-Men, I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And so for this book here, I find that we're at a stage with Ultimate X-Men that I'm like totally and completely confused as to what's going on. It's so difficult to describe and explain because we have so many characters, and the characters aren't going by, their actual X-Men name. They're going by a whole bunch of different names, and it's tough just keeping it all in my head. And these come out once a month, right? So I'm just like thinking back. So as I'm reviewing this one, and I'm not giving a whole bunch of detail, like just please forgive me, but that's been the trajectory of reviewing this probably since issue 8. To be honest, we're at like a point where there are just so many folks to keep track of. But basically at the point of this story here, we have the House of Adam, which is basically a whole bunch of mutants that are being experimented on, and it's like a cult. And we're in this town, and a whole bunch of the students are actually mutants, and the outside world is looking in, and it's like there's all this craziness happening in this town, and they're blaming it all on this cult. And they haven't revealed that they're mutants to the outside world, but there's all this suspicion. So we have 2 kids that are trying to investigate, and they have an inside person who has somehow infiltrated and pretended that they're a mutant. And so she goes and investigates and finds out the Maester, which is like kind of the head scientist of specifically the House of Adam. And then we have Viper, who's like kind of the director of the whole operation of what's going on. They're experimenting on someone there. And so she finds out. We don't get to the point of her relaying the information outside of the House of Adam, but at least she kind of knows what's going on, which we've known for a while at this point. Then there's this other point where now one of our main characters, Miko, is getting some visions of, and I should pull this up here. It's getting visions of, what is his name? Akiro. And we've seen Akiro mentioned before in some older issues, but from there we only see like him getting experimented on. But it basically seems like this is this universe's version of Logan, is my thought. But it's weird because Wolverine, you have Logan in that one, so I'm not entirely sure if these are like separate or together. You would think that they're together because it's both Ultimate Universe, so maybe it's not. But Akiro is basically showing up of like getting tortured and like the origin of all this stuff. So it's now coming to a point of like, are we actually going to learn who this is and what Akiro's powers are and what's actually happening there? And a lot of the issue takes place there of like, okay, need to figure out where this mutant is being experimented on, because a lot of this experimentation started with Akiro. So that's where we're leading there. And then we basically close out the issue back at the 2 people that are trying to report this out and have the the informant. They're just talking about next steps and what exactly that they're going to do. So in my eyes, bit of a filler issue here. I did give it a 4, mostly on the art. If the art wasn't there to support it, I would say for this in this issue, it actually would have been a 3.5 in my opinion. So it's the art that really saved it. And it is Peach Momoko who's doing both the story and also doing the art. And so from art's perspective, she's phenomenal. I was thinking about doing this as like cover of the week, so it may hold. If you want to know the real one, it's actually World Tree. But if you look up World Tree, I'm like a little afraid to actually put that onto Instagram as the cover of the week. It's like pretty risque. But if not, then I would say actually probably Ultimate X-Men is pretty dope here. So let's flip over now to the art. Take a look there. And it's in the kind of that traditional Peach Momoko, right? So yeah, it's a bunch of pastels. It almost looks like water painting is the best way to describe it in my opinion. But it's also kind of an anime art style. It's just very uniquely her. But let's see if we get to the Akira part. And here are all the experimentations that are happening at the House of Adam. So here you can see the Akira piece and like all the craziness and like it's wild how she's able to put all this together. But a lot of her stuff is more focused in on the art itself than the actual story, which is fine. You get 50-50. That's the medium. I think actually more people put a lot of emphasis on the art anyways. If Martian Manhunter is any indication of that, with how well that reviewed in the first issue, I was like, this story doesn't seem super impressive to me, but nonetheless, it got a really high score. I think it was like 4.7, 4.8. So anyways, that is Ultimate X-Men number 15. Again, pretty convoluted at this point. Try to, wherever the break is in the volume, maybe start there. But even then, there's just so many characters and so much craziness going on. It's actually kind of difficult to just even explain, kind of where we're at. So next up here, we have Transformers number 20. Man, this book was freaking awesome. This is a lot of focus on Megatron in particular. And so we have Megatron, who's been established and introduced. It was just a couple issues ago. And now it's fellow Decepticons are basically trying to challenge Megatron for his leadership of the Decepticons. And so the latest one now is Astro Train, which is a Transformer I've never heard of before the comics here. And he's like this enormous space shuttle. And so he attacks Megatron on the top of this building. And of course, Megatron is able to like defeat him pretty much no problem whatsoever. And it's like, anyone else care to challenge me? And nobody does anything. And so from there, he takes a whole lot of the Decepticons and he's basically like, okay. And sorry, for the score, if you saw it on the video, gave it a 4.5, Lee gave it a 4.6. Very, very good issue. So from there, Megatron takes the whole squad, and it's like, I got a place where I've been hiding out Energon on the planet this entire time, and it's somewhere out in the Pacific Ocean. So he goes out there with everyone, and he brings out Starscream with him. And remember, Starscream is completely, like, screwed up. His body is, like, all dismembered from, I think it was, like, issue 11 or something like that. And so Starscream thinks like he's gonna get killed here. Like thinks he's gonna be sacrificed in some sort of machine. There's this like chair that's all set up from him, and Megatron's like, put him in there, and he's like begging for his life. Starscream, he's like, no, please stop. I won't challenge you anymore. I pledge loyalty. Like all this stuff, right? Throws him into the chair, and so the Megatron turns on the machine or whatever, and it actually completely restores Starscream to his entire original self, and he's totally fine. He's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Megatron. I appreciate it. I love you so much. Like, I'm loyal with you to the end. And Megatron's like, good. It seems like you're feeling better already. And then just starts beating the hell out of him. He starts beating him up. He's like, now your punishment can begin. It's like, this book is so brutal all throughout since the very first issue, and it just continues. And basically, he's just like torturing him, beating him down to effectively where he was when he started. Just to make an example out of him. So that all happens, and then they bring in Astro Train as well. And so Astro Train is like held and pinned down, and he's like, for your betrayal, Astro Train. Megatron then changes into that hand cannon that he was from issue 19 or issue 18, and puts himself into Starscream's hand. So he's from the Transformer into a hand cannon, right? You fire it and it's like this whole cannon blast like goes off basically. And Megatron in the cannon form tells Starscream, you have to kill Astro Train now. And he's like, please, I don't want to do this, no. And he's like, do I need to remind you of the influence I have over you? And so sure enough, pulls the trigger that is Megatron at Astro Train, and it hits him. But then I think it's Soundwave is like, over the years or being on this planet or whatever reason, you're not as powerful as you used to be, Megatron. You're probably gonna have to shoot him a couple times. And like, no joke, he shoots him like 8 times before, and then they just show like this completely destroyed robot in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on this raft thing. Like crazy, brutal, gruesome, over the top, wild. Transformers is awesome. This is like the craziest, most adult Transformers I could have ever imagined in my life, all in this book, and it is so good, and it's just consistently been good. It's a crown jewel of comics right now, and certainly for Image. Incredible stuff. So of course I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.6. It wasn't quite 5 territory, but I did audibly gasp a couple times. So I'm like, if I'm doing that throughout the book, that is 5 territory. So it's excellent stuff. That's the majority of the story. The other pieces, you have Optimus. He's with a whole bunch of the crew back at their base, and now they've actually gotten some Energon as well, and they're bringing back some of the, I think it's like the space bots or something like that, the aerial bots, I think that's what they're called, and so they'll be mixed into the fight for the next couple issues as well. So let's flip over to the art on this. So the art is just incredibly good as per usual. This is like the whole Astro Train fight, and that's Megatron right there. So he has his eyes plucked out, but he has like this falcon that's basically seeing for him. It's just wild stuff. This is Optimus and kind of the Astro, and then let's get to the part here where they go to this piece of Cybertron that's just sitting in the middle of the ocean. There's Starscream sitting right there, and he's brought back to his full self, restored. And then Megatron just beating the crap out of him. And then we have him flipping into the hand cannon here, and then firing onto Astro. And then the multiple times afterwards. It's like, jeez, just brutal. Brutal. Oh, man. Such a good book. Is it the time to jump in? It's really not. You got to go back a couple on this one. I'd say, I think it's 18. It would be the place to jump in here. But just read the Transformers. They're so good. If I've ever been interested I want to learn more, this is the time. This is the time, the place. This is it. I don't know what else to say other than that. And with that being said, this one, for sure, is Comic of the Week. So, yeah. Definitely Comic of the Week. With that, too, let's actually now go over to the picks of the week that are on League anyways. So you see, Absolute Batman was at the top. And as I was reading it, I was like, maybe this could be number 1. And then I kept reading. I was like, no, this isn't. I'm not going to vote this by any stretch of the imagination. But then we had Invincible Universe, which seems pretty cool. I was thinking about getting it. It is an Image one. They've been promoting it like crazy. I saw it in the shop. But I was like, Dylan, you have so many freaking books now. You keep talking about on this show how you're trying to pare things down on the preview. You can't buy this book. Sometimes you just got to let them go. So if it continues this way and I keep seeing them like each month, high every week, then maybe I'll just pick up the trade. Then, that's what we'll do. So then we see Exquisite Corpses, super high ratings like I mentioned before, and then there's Transformers, number 20. And then it looks like Supergirl did pretty well as well. So yeah, but Transformers for me is number 1. The only other one that I was thinking like maybe it could be good is looking at World Tree, because I do just love World Tree in general, but I saw the voting on that is very low. So I'm like, okay, that's probably not going to beat out Transformers here. And then it could be Exquisite Corpses, which is better than Transformers here, but I was like, if they're back and forth, I'm sure I'm safe to say that this will be the one. So that is what we went with. Transformers number 20, 4.5. Lee gave that a 4.6. Now let's flip over to the next one here, which is Green Lantern Corp number 4. So this book here, I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.8. I liked it, but it seemed to me like there's more to give here. And that is what brought it down for me overall. You have two sides of this. And it went a completely different direction starting in this 4th issue than it did from issue number 1 through 3, really. It seemed a lot more serious. We're going after a whole bunch of big bads. We have the whole Corp that's with us. And maybe it's like we're doing these one-off adventures, but it had like a darker tone. This is totally opposite. Very campy, very quippy, buddy cop situation. So we have two different stories here. And I'm actually going to have to pull up my notes for this one because there are just a lot of names and stuff that are in Green Lantern as well. So first we have Simon and Kelly. So Simon's like maybe 20-something. Kelly is a teenager. It's Kelly's birthday. She's looking to basically set up something like for a car, and she needs a psionic battery is what she's looking for. And so Simon's like, I know the place to go. We'll go to Necrocopia, I think that's how you pronounce it, Necrocopia. And it's basically like a dead Starro, but has turned into a city. And there's just a whole bunch of shops and things like that. So they head out there, they go to this shop, and it's basically like this illegal trader doing stuff. And like, we're looking for a psionic battery. He's like, oh, yeah, I have one. He goes to the back and he pulls something out, but it's not the battery. It's some sort of like mind trapping thing, and puts both of them into this mind maze that they have to fight through. So that's the one side of the story. The next one side is Guy Gardner is one of the Green Lanterns, and he's been paired up with a recruit. And so it's like a buddy cop ride along thing. And Guy is like braggadocious, asshole, jerk, over the top, doesn't want to do any of this stuff, thinks he's above it all, that type of attitude, right? And so he's like, all right, recruit, you just sit back, be quiet, watch me do my thing, and hopefully you learn something, right? That's kind of the attitude that he has going into it. They also end up at Necropia as well, and they are going after a guy called Evil Star, and they're trying to find some information about Starbreaker, who was in issue 1 and issue 2. And so when they run into Evil Star, of course, Evil Star, being his name, is evil and shoots at both of them. So Guy Gardner puts up this big green force field around them, but he has what's called like a quantum destabilizer. So he shoots that, and it like destabilizes, I guess, all the atoms around them, and they start like sinking through the floors and the levels of Necropia. And so we'll see what all happens there, as that's basically the cliffhanger that we're left off on there. So those are the two situations that are going on now. No mention of Hal, no mention of John. They're not involved at this point. It's just these two kind of buddy cop stories that are going on as of right now. And I'm sure issue number 5 will pick up from there. And so that was basically the reason as to why I gave it a 3.5. It's like, what a huge pivot from what we were doing previously. But flipping through the art here, it is pretty good. I do enjoy the art. I think that's all fine and well, but to me, it's just jarring of going from, here's what the tone of the book was previously, and now we're completely switching it up. But you can see the art is pretty good overall. So that's Green Lantern Corp number 4. Gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.8. Next up, we have the Hive. What an interesting one here. Pull this up. Go over to the screen share. I gave it a 4. Not even rated yet. Not even rated. I've mentioned this one before. I will mention it again. It is an interesting book because the first issue was so bad. The first issue was setting up too much world building and being too ambiguous. And because of that, and setting up all these mechanics that didn't make any sense because we don't know what these words mean or what you're trying to get at, I think a lot of people just dropped off this book and just didn't give it a chance. Book number 2 was a little confusing. Book number 3, things got a lot clearer. And then book number 4, things are very clear now. So I wish that it would have had that type of... I almost wish I just read this as a trade. Can't read this issue by issue is really the bottom line of this whole thing. I think as a trade, it's actually good. I wouldn't say great, but it's good. Single issue by issue, singles, it's bad. So that's the thing. The story here, a little confusing, but I'll try my best. The powers that people have, some people, as like their superpower is these vibrations that they can create on the decibels and the vibration in their tone of voice and the sound, right? So our vocal cords are making vibrations that go through the air that hits our ear, and then that's how we interpret it as sound, right? That's how it works. These other, mutants, for lack of a better word, they're able to increase the vibration at a certain tone. And so when that hits people's ears, it then controls their mind as to what they do. And so what the superpower basically is almost mind control, but it's not actually mind control. It's using this vibration in order to do it. And it's very similar to how bees communicate. And so the way and the language that they use, everything is like in some sort of bee vernacular. So we have a queen. She's in charge of what's called the hive. And then we have worker bees. We have beekeepers. So all of that stuff is like how the world is described. And the whole story here is we have a hive. It's either not doing well or people aren't liking it. And the worker bees, which are just kind of like your goons. And then the supervillain is the queen. The goons are getting away from the queen. Queen is Shay. And she doesn't like that, obviously. She's like, you're my drones, my worker bees, you're going to work for me. And the worker bees are like, this isn't it. We're starting our own hive. So that's kind of how it all starts. But it's confusing. And I think a huge disservice that this book did is they have two characters that almost look identical. They look like they're twins. And so as you're reading through and you're trying to like get in your mind like who's who, and you have two characters that look the same, that was so confusing. I thought the whole time it was two different queens going after each other. Now I'm reading this in book 4, and it's like, that other woman was not a queen. She was a worker bee also, and they're basically revolting and trying to create their own hive. And the way the hive kind of operates is they just do a whole bunch of crimes and stuff, and then they'll kind of facilitate a whole bunch of like sexual fantasies and stuff like mind control stuff basically. So they'll charge a fee or a service for that. They'll make a whole bunch of money. It all goes to the hive and they all kind of work together collectively doing all this craziness, right? And so the worker bees are, I guess they want to do their own thing that's separate from the queen. The queen wants them to come back and it's doing it forcefully. So this last book here, the rebels that broke off, they're trying to do this job up in Miami. And Miami seems like it's going to be like this crazy orgy sex party thing that they're going to facilitate for it. And so it's Miami. They're in like a penthouse or whatever. And the queen bee shows up. And suddenly all the participants of the party just start running off the balcony and jump off and all like killing themselves. So it's like someone else is mind controlling them, through the vibrations. That's very powerful and very strong. So all this is happening. One of them looks across and sees at the building across, the queen bee is there. So they're like, oh, she probably did it. She's a little bit more powerful, obviously, because she's the queen. And they're like, okay, but we say all this. This guy Mason, who we picked up in the first couple issues, he's pretty powerful too as a worker bee. And he was actually able to save like 15 of them. So him imprinting onto the regular people, his will was stronger than whatever the queen's will was. So naturally, all the worker bees are freaking out. They're like, we got to get out of here. The cops are going to show up. They're going to assume, we did something. So they all leave. And they're like, now Shay, the queen, she's after us. Like, what are we going to do? And as they're leaving, one of the workers, Benji, was actually feeding information back to the queen and he admits it to them. So like, okay, obviously we have to kill you now, right? Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You gave us up. And so they're interrogating Benji. The queen then shows up to where they're all hiding out at some sort of dock or pier. And so like, crap, she's here. Like, what are we going to do? And so all the worker bees decide to go, but Mason stays behind. He's the stronger worker bee. And so he confronts Shay. And it's like, I'm not going to join a party. And Shay is like, we would do really good things together. And, if these worker bees, if they don't get in line, I can't just allow them to do their own thing because they think that they're going to be able to control their own hive. But in the end, you need a queen. And they're may be successful to start, but this is for the good of the hive if I am just the queen. So, just talking a whole bunch of nonsense, basically. And Mason's like somewhat buying it. But then Mason's like, what, you killed all those people? That's good for the hive. Like, we were trying to make a whole bunch of money. And Shay's like, I didn't kill any of those people. And then that's when it's revealed Craven, who's a different worker bee who was still under Shay, actually double-crossed both of them and is trying to get rid of the rebels and trying to get rid of the queen as well. We don't know who he's working for, but he was the one that set it all up, that caused all those people to come off or jump off the building. So it wasn't Shay and it wasn't the rebels. It was this other guy, Craven. And they're like, oh shit, like, what are we going to do now? And so as Craven does that, he's like, and I have an ace up my sleeve. And a new character is introduced, the Wasp. And I was like, oh snap. And I only know this because of like seeing random stuff on Instagram when you scroll. Like wasps, especially when you compare them to the size of bees, they're like freaking enormous, and they will infiltrate bee nest and like start like eating off all these bees. And the only way that the bees can kill them is they all surround the wasp, and they literally vibrate at like a crazy high temperature and like cook the wasp from the inside out. That's basically how it works, like in actual world, in the wildlife, Animal Planet type stuff, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, this is what they're going after. And sure enough, this is what it was. The Wasp shows up, who's another human, but I guess she has powers to like the nth degree and is like beyond this hive, and was hired by some sort of external party. And she just starts like almost like blowing stuff up with her mind. It was nuts. I was like, holy shit, this book is now getting insane. And so all the other worker bees, they try to jump onto this boat. They literally like summon the guy to bring the boat back. They get onto the boat. Mason is like trying to hold off against her. And I'm like, Mason, you're just a worker bee. Like, you can't fight off this wasp by yourself. You're like, you're crazy. And he's fighting a little bit, They're doing mind spells back and forth, back and forth. Shay, the queen, she leaves. She's able to get onto the boat. And then Mason finally gets onto the boat too. And so then the Wasp calls up whoever the higher powers are, and like, yeah, try to clean it up. But like, obviously things just got messy here. I did the best that I could with all the resources that I had. And the higher ups are, all right, fine, just clean this up, and you have to like kill all of them basically. And so the Wasp just kills Craven immediately right there, and then kills everyone else was on the scene as possibly a witness. And now she's going to go after, I guess, Shay and the other bees. And I was like, damn, dude, and I think that's the end. I think that's the end of this trade. This was 4-part. I was like, man, if only you had the same pace and tone for issue 1 and 2 like you did for 3 and 4. And this could have been a very, very good, like great to excellent book. But it was just too confusing for issue 1. I'm like, oh, you're onto something here. And if I'm reading this as an editor, and if I'm reading the first 4 books, I'm like, oh yeah, print this. This is incredible stuff. But if I read just issue 1, there's no way in hell that that's good. It's like objectively terrible. It was really, really bad. I think Lee gave it a 2 and change. But now you read the whole thing together, and it's like, oh, it makes so much sense now. It makes so much sense, and it's actually pretty freaking cool. So if you get the trade, I think you'll enjoy it. But you can't just read the singles. You just can't. And they screwed up by doing that, unfortunately. They just didn't pace it out the way that it should have done it in order to make it good throughout. When I when I reviewed issue 3, same comments and critiques. Now it's like even escalated even further because it's so much cooler for issue number 4. So that's the Hive. Unfortunately, I think it's kind of doomed, but I would love to see more of this. Now that I know what actually is going on and how it's working, I would love to see more, man. It's, and you know, now I'm following all this stuff on Instagram as I'm trying to like promote all this stuff. So my feed is just a whole bunch of comic stuff. They're not even really promoting it either. I think because the first one failed and reviewed so poorly, that's just kind of it. On comics, I don't know what the statistic is on the drop-offs, but it is significant on a number 1. And especially if a number 1 is bad, like forget about it. Like it's just done. It's dead on arrival, basically. Unfortunately. So that's the Hive, number 4. Let's go into some of the art real quick here. Obviously, I had a lot to say about it because it's just so interesting, especially nobody's reviewed it yet on League. The last one, I think, had like 20 reviews. So this is the party here in Miami. This is all the people like dying and falling off the thing. It's like pretty wild stuff. And then here is now at the dock and everything. And then when the Wasp isn't, this is when Craven reveals himself. And then the Wasp being introduced is here. And she's like, look at her. She's just like literally blowing stuff up with her mind. It's like nuts. I was like, holy crap. So now it's like, this is so freaking cool. And especially because I know like how wasps actually work in the wild. Like if you can look it up and see something, and how the size of them compared to these worker bees, it's insane. Like it looks like some sort of like kaiju is attacking a city, and then all these bees just get on it, just vibrate, and boom, like it literally cook the wasp from the inside out. But just having that frame of reference, and then you're reading this, and you're like, oh man, I understand the power difference. Like one-on-one, it's literally impossible. But you need the whole strength of the Hive in order to like kill off a wasp. So anyways, that is the Hive number 4. I will say these these cover pieces strung together, they actually do look pretty nice. I'm going to flip through them real quickly here on the share screen here for the video. But so that was issue 1. Okay, pretty cool. Gun with a whole bunch of bees. And then here it looks like I thought they were shooting the bullet at her. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then you got like this beekeeper stuff. And then now you have a queen chess piece being pulled down by all these worker bees. I was like, that's pretty cool as well. I was like, dang, man. So they had it. They just fumbled the bag on that first issue. Ugh. Kills me. Anyways, let's now flip over to Spectacular Spider-Man. Speaking of kills me, this book here is just abysmal, unfortunately. I did give it a 3.5, but I'm thinking about it. I really should have just given it a 3. Lee gave it a 3.2. And for the Hive, obviously, like if the message wasn't clear enough, just get the trade. Obviously, don't jump in at number 4. Number 15, this is the last book of this one for Spectacular Spider-Man. Obviously, don't jump into this. I wouldn't recommend this at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. Do not read this book. It's just not good. And now that I think about it, I really should have given it a 3. It's like, it doesn't make any sense to me how you have 2 Spider-Men and it's bad. How is it bad? Come on, Marvel. What are you doing here? All this book does here is it just cleans up the rest of what has happened throughout. So you have a whole bunch of cameos in here. Elementary looks like she's going off, going to kill herself. She doesn't. Not even close. She's like, hey, by the way, your girlfriend, or not even girlfriend, the girl that you have a crush on that already has a girlfriend that you think like you hurt is not hurt. And so you should just get over it. And she does pretty quickly. And the whole lot of everyone, you can see on the cover here, the different characters that they have, they're all searching for her. So it's just a way to throw all the characters in here for the past 14 issues. It's dumb. It's a waste of time. Terrible. 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.2. The whole series has been 3.5s. The whole series. It's just, it's too kid-like. There's not any substance to it. You got the quips, which is like, okay, classic Spider-Man, but they're not even featured that much in it. It's just a miss, guys. It's just a miss. I don't know what else to say. We'll flip to the art so you can see that. And you see all the different cameos that are in here as well. Basically throughout the book, it's like character here, character there, characters everywhere. And it's just all the different folks that were involved at some point. So that's what's cool is you have a whole bunch of different characters in here. That's literally the only cool thing about this book. That is like the only thing. So it's, yeah. It's a skip. Let's move on to the next one here. Doctor Strange of Asgard, number 3. And we got just 3 more books here, folks. So this book is pretty good. What did I give it, a 4? I sure did. Lee gave it a 3.8. I like this one. It's like sneaky funny, in my opinion. Just the funny little jokes that it brings up here and there. It's tough to kind of describe. But basically, here we have Doctor Strange. He's no longer the Sorcerer Supreme, and he's basically trying to figure out, okay, if I can't be the Sorcerer Supreme of Midgard, I'm going to be the Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard, because those are different, I guess, Sorcerer Supremes. And so that's what he decides to do. But when he decides to do that and learn from the Sorceress, Loki shows up, and Loki actually kills her, and then Loki disappears. But we find out Loki was under the influence, but we don't know by what. Doctor Strange believes him, and he's now basically doing the investigation and trying to figure it all out. So for issue number 3, in the last one, he was attacked by an assassin. They left an axe. They talked a little bit about the axe, but basically they were like, we need a troll skull. I was like, okay, they need a dark troll skull. Okay. I don't know why when you had the clue of the axe, but that's what they needed. So they go to a shop to try to pick one up, but it's like a fake. And the guy's like, yeah, I don't have any real ones. You're going to have to find one in the world. And they're like, okay, how do we do that? You got to go to Dark Troll Country and try to find one. So like, okay. He picks up a whole bunch of companion warriors that are interested. and being suicidal, I guess. And they go off to find these dark trolls, because I guess these trolls are very vicious and very difficult to find. So they go up in the mountains, and then they're attacked by a whole bunch of raiders, and then they're fighting them off, and then the dark trolls enter, and the dark trolls are actually helping them and fighting off the raiders. So Dr. Strange is, okay, that's cool, but it's weird because we're going after them, so it's going to be awkward conversation afterwards when we say we need one of your skulls. And that's like kind of the funny parts of this. It's just like circumstantial, I guess, comedy is the best way to put it. And so they fight off the raiders, and then the leader troll is like very voluptuous, right? So it's like actually an attractive troll. And so Strange is like, yeah, we need one of your skulls. And they're like, oh, so you're just going to kill one of us then? And he's like, well, I prefer not to. Do you have like just skulls lying around? And Strange is like, I bet they don't. She's like, oh, yeah, we got skulls everywhere. And at first he's like, I couldn't tell if she was sarcastic or not, but I guess she was being very serious. And they do have skulls all over the place. And so they decide to celebrate, fighting off the raiders. So they just get drunk and start telling stories, and they're hanging out. And, it's Asgard. So, in Valhalla and all these other places, like they're fighting and stuff. So they start like fighting too. But then, they all kind of come together. The head troll lady, she basically gives a little toast of like, hey, we shouldn't be fighting, to the merriment of us bringing these groups together of Asgardians, trolls, and, Strange from Midgard. And they all cheers. And as that happens, an assassin then comes in. So they're just at a campfire. So literally out of the woods in the dark, comes in, goes to the leader troll lady, slices her head off. Just like completely slices her head off out of nowhere. Everyone's like, what the hell literally just happened? And the trolls are like, it's you guys. You set us up. And now you've killed our leader. We're fighting. And so, of course, they go to blows, and like the Asgardians and Strange are like, we can't say anything here. We just got to fend them off and just run. And so that's what they do. And in all the chaos, Strange forgets to pick up a skull. So we're like, oh shit, like we just wasted all this time. And so they're leaving. And then one of the companions is like, yeah, I could tell that you liked her a lot. So I picked up her head on the way out. So they do have a dark troll skull, and it is like of the hot lady troll. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. So they finally get back into town, and like Strange is like so flustered of like what the hell just happened. And when he opens up his room, it's Thor and it's Surf standing there. And now they've found word about Helda was the name of the woman who died. It's like, we have to talk to you about Helda. And they're like, oh no, they were trying to keep this a secret the whole time, and clearly that has come to pass. So it's a cool issue. Let's flip over, see the art. I like the art a lot in this one. It's like deep saturation of color is the best way to describe it. And really good detail on like the clothing and like all the beards and the hairstyles and stuff. So the art is really, really good in my opinion. It actually reminds me a little bit of Miles Morales. Who knows? It could be the same Magno. I'm not sure actually if it is the same artist or not. But yeah, it's pretty cool, right? So you can see like the troll lady here, right? So she's fairly attractive for a troll lady anyways. She makes mention of like, yeah, Thor thought I was pretty attractive too. So it's like a thing. And here with the head cut off and everything. So yeah, that's Doctor Strange of Asgard. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. I'd say just start from the beginning if you can. It's number 3. So if you can find number 1, that would be the way to go, in my opinion. Next up, Batman 153. This is a backlog. Let's see. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And yeah, this book is a break from everything that we did before. This is the first one after Absolute Powers. So it's kind of a reset. City of Gotham is doing better, or doing well in comparison to how it usually is. So we're taking a step away from Batman and we're going to Bruce. So it's like Battle of the Billionaire type stuff. So Riddler is now Enigma, and he's not evil Riddler here. He's actually trying to make an honest living. Started a whole cryptocurrency thing. I say honest living, and then I say cryptocurrencies. It's like, okay, well, maybe not. But he's trying to do like an actual, I guess, like Coinbase type deal. And Bruce, this guy's like, I got my eye on you. And he goes in like as Batman, right? Not as Bruce. Enigma's like, hey, spy all you want. I'm trying to be legit. I'm sick and tired of fighting with you and losing. I figured I might as well use my brains for good. And so Batman leaves. Now he's as Bruce, right? And as with Wayne Enterprises and everything, he's got all these business deals. His assistant or business partner or whatever, it's like, hey, you should consider acquiring XYZ. And Bruce is looking at it. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to do it. And she keeps pushing him. And you basically find out that whatever they're trying to acquire is like a subsidiary within shells, this, that, and the other of the Enigma crypto thing. Because he's trying to get legit and like sell this thing so he actually has the money to then do whatever it is that he wants to do. And that's basically the issue in a nutshell. So, again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4. It's an interesting take. If you've listened to my reviews before on the Iron Man side of things, I do like when we do like some of the boardroom stuff. Like I work like at corporate jobs, so obviously like business and stuff interests me, right? So when we do that and that mixes into the comics, I'm okay with that to a certain extent. I don't want the whole thing to just be about like, okay, how are we doing these deals and how's it someone screwing over someone else? But from time to time, I don't mind it at all. So that's why I erred towards a 4, and I guess Lee kind of agreed with me as well. So that's Batman 153. I'm interested to when are we going to get to like kind of the dark side stuff? And I haven't read much other than Justice League Unlimited on the other side of like the All-In universe. And like, does that tie in or not? I honestly, genuinely don't know, because most of my DC stuff is on backlog, and I just have this. I have Batman and Robin. I don't have like any of the Superman stuff or like really anything else. No Aquaman, no Green Arrow, no Green Lantern, other than Green Lantern Corp, which is like kind of a different thing. Like none of like the standard books outside of really Batman. So I'm interested to see what all that is about and where it's all going to go. We're getting to Hush pretty soon too, which there's a lot of hype around it. I don't know what those reviews are, but I know there was plenty of hype on it. So we'll see if that's actually living up to expectation. I think that's around 156 or 158, something like that. So anyways, that's 153 that we just reviewed here. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4. I say this could be a time to jump in, but anytime on these backlogs, more times than I'm like, hey, just get current on the whole thing. And I realized I never flipped over or showed off the art. So the art is fine. It's mostly like corporate stuff. There's nothing that's really like fighting or anything, you know? So there's not much action that you have going on here. There's this little piece here, and it's basically Batman like talking with the commissioner, but it was like kind of a small time deal. I totally forgot about that, but it wasn't even really that big of a deal. Yeah. So, I did forget about that. So there is a reveal of talking about whether or not Bruce had a brother. I forgot about that entirely. So we'll see how that happens. Sorry, I guess I didn't take good notes on this one. So, anyways, that's 153. So let's go over here now to Phoenix, number 5. So this book it picks up exactly where it left off here, and I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4. I thought the action in this one was awesome. I thought the realization of like who Phoenix is, beyond of what she thinks that she is incredible as well. So we have the Galactic Council, which is basically a group of a whole bunch of villains, anti-heroes, and just people to monitor basically the galaxy. They realize that the Phoenix is back. The Phoenix has been chaotic throughout history and time. Sometimes it's good, but sometimes it just kind of loses control and threatens the whole balance of the universe and threatens the safety of everyone. And the last time Jean was the Phoenix, I guess stuff went awry, and she became like this crazy evil supervillain. So they're like, we got to contain this and control it. And so Pericus is like the main god, if you will, that we're dealing with. And he's totally against Phoenix. And he's got like an acolyte that he's corrupted as well, of a girl of a planet that is like killed her father, and then now she like worships it, I guess, basically under Pericus. And so Pericus goes to this Galactic Council. It's like, I know a way to get rid of him, or get rid of Phoenix. It's like, we'll summon Gore. And so Gore, the God Killer, or the God Butcher, is fighting Phoenix, and looks like kills Phoenix in the last one. So we start off here, and it seems like she's dead, but she's not dead. She's not in the afterlife. She's in a different plane, and the plane of existence that she's on is with all these other beings that are basically beyond gods, like outside the plane of existence. And they basically remind Phoenix, remember who you are. Like, you do not obey any of these rules of gods or anything like that. Like, you constantly exist in perpetuity. And so Gore can't kill you because he's the god butcher. You're not a god. Like, you're beyond that. You're like ethereal. You always are. You always will be. And they basically remind her of that. So sure enough, she comes back to life because all you need is an explanation. Now suddenly you're back to life. And she fights off Gore, defeats Gore. And then the whole Galactic Council sees that. But now that's just confirmation from them. It's like, see, I told you, she's dangerous. Not even Gore can kill her. What are we going to do? We got to go after her. And with that, Pericus's acolyte then shows up. And she's all pissed off at Phoenix because she's the reason Pericus got out. There's like a black hole. There's a sun going into it. Something happened that Phoenix did something that, and Pericus was in that black hole. He got out, destroyed her whole planet, killing her father and everything, and became her acolyte. So now she hates Phoenix and now worships under him because she has nowhere else to go, basically. And we're going to see where that whole fight takes us. So that's the story. Kind of interesting. I'm enjoying the book. I think it's pretty awesome. Like, check out this full spread here. These are all like the different ethereals that live beyond gods, basically, in this universe. Pretty nuts. And so the art is outstanding. Really, really good. Get this like Phoenix stuff, going after Gore. It's, man, excellent stuff. But this is a backlog. I think we're on issue 11 that just came out. I think that was just in the polls. So I'd say jump in at that point. Or, start off with the trades. Oh, and that's right. And then Thanos gets involved at the end too, which is sweet. So you can tell for these backlog ones, I was just like, let's just start reading them. And I didn't take the best notes on those, but that's okay. That is Phoenix number 5. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4. So that is going to wrap up the review section of all of this. Let's collect all the books here. Get them all in order. I'll give them to you start to finish. We had Absolute Batman number 8. Ultimate Black Panther 16. Ultimate X-Men 15. Transformers 20. Green Lantern Corp number 4. The Hive number 4. Spectacular Spider-Man 15. Doctor Strange of Asgard number 3. Batman 153. And then Phoenix number 5. So those are the books. And then before we completely close out for the week, let's talk through the polls for next week, which we go down, but not by much. I'm only down to 17 instead of 19 books. Still over, but, a little more comfortable at that place than I am at 19. But not quite the 15 that I'm hoping for. So we have Absolute Flash number 3 coming up. Bug Wars number 4. Bug Wars is awesome. Looking forward to that. Cyberpunk 2077 Psycho Squad number 4. Doom Academy number 4. That's a fun book. Been enjoying that. Exceptional X-Men number 9 is going to be a backlog. Hulk and Doctor Strange number 1. That's a whole bunch of just random one-shots of like pairing up different heroes or villains together that wouldn't typically be paired up together. So that will be that one. I think next after that is a Galactus and Ghost Rider, and then it's Spider-Man and the Sinister 16 is after that, and then I think all that is done. Then we have Incredible Hulk 25, Iron Man number 8, looking forward to that. Medieval Spawn 2, The New Gods number 6. New Gods has been incredible. It's a Rom V joint. Null Hunter number 8, Redcoat number 12. A new number 1, Robo Wolf number 1. It was literally just the, let's click on it, the cover that won me over. I was like, that looks dope. I got to read it. And that's what I'm trying to avoid, are the ones where I'm like, yeah, that looks pretty cool. Let's just pick it up. Just trying to be a little bit more intentional about what I'm picking up here. Then we have Star Wars High Republic, Fear of the Jedi number 4. Superior Avengers number 2. Ultimates number 12, definitely looking forward to that. That could be a contender for Comic of the Week. And then Zatanna number 4. I'm excited to show off Zatanna. I feel like I don't do a good job of reviewing that one. And then you see the art and it's like, this is why this book is so incredibly good. So I haven't reviewed one since I started posting on YouTube, and we'll finally have one, Zatanna number 4. And you'll see, like, so underrated in my opinion, just so incredibly underrated, but really good stuff. So those are the 17 books that we have there. So with that, let's wrap it up here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. Keep this thing going, right? So I will do an Omega run for sure next week. Probably just one is what I'm thinking at this point, but still just trying to build this out. Work on doing some clips too, get some YouTube shorts going as well. But if you want to follow me, social media, trying to post as much as I can. I started this new thing on Instagram and then TikTok as well, where I'm now posting, once I finish a series, now all the covers so you can see from start to finish. And it's interesting because sometimes I'll just get like the variants, and that's like, this is what the shop had. Sometimes the variants look cooler and I did it on purpose. But not like Spectacular Spider-Man, you'll see all 15 of those covers up side by side. And so I'll post that up as a reel. So if you want to follow me, Instagram is Saturday Morning Comic Review. TikTok is The Helpful Bailiff. League of Comic Geeks is also Helpful Bailiff. If you want to email me, tips, tricks, things you'd like to see more, things you'd like to see less of, that is saturdaymorningcbreview@gmail.com. Everything's going to be in the descriptions on the YouTube and then on the podcast as well. And then you'll have the whole list of the books we reviewed and then timestamps on the YouTube. So I think that will close it out. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.
Go, 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 go.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.